We brought you damn good beer, and now we're bringing you damn good beef. Hassel Cattle Company is the absolute best source for farm-to-table Wagyu beef in the country. They ship all over the beautiful USA and straight to your door. They call their beef the blue-collar Wagyu. Why? Because it's the best damn Wagyu that every man or woman can afford. Hassel Cattle Company offers Wagyu smoked sausage, New York strip, beef bacon, Wagyu Franks with no fillers, 2 jerky flavors, original and sweet and spicy. Their hamburger won Food Network's Northeast Burger Jam. And not only do we love their beef, but the whole country loves their beef. These guys take their registered bulls out and breed them with Angus cows, giving you that high pride product that is grown with zero antibiotics and hormones. So head to HassellCattleCompany.com. That's HASSELL CattleCompany.com and use the code DNVR for 10% off.
Number one for the one and only DNVR. 2 goes out to Zach, Mace, RK, and the bar. 3 for Mr. B in that old trophy case. Number 4 we're still waiting for. Well, bring on the chase. Out on the field, a mile high, Broncos win is our desire. Couple with a breakfast crew and a friend, bleed orange and blue to the bitter end. Come and join us at the DNVR. We are DNVR.
Welcome in to the DNVR Broncos podcast presented by MSU Denver Online. Rigorous and affordable programs taught by professors who bring the real world into the classroom. You can even take classes with your cat on your lap like Zach right now. So go to msudenver.edu/online. Use the code DNVR Sports to have all of your application fees waived and get that rigorous and affordable education right from the comfort of your own couch.
My boys, what's shaking on this wonderful Wednesday? I cannot believe all the quarterback news that's happening in the NFL this offseason.
It's pretty interesting, and I think it goes back to a conversation we had last offseason, I want to say, about the age of player empowerment. And it really started in the NBA, where the players started to realize they kind of control everything. And it's a little different in the NBA just because the rosters are so small. But you're starting to see quarterbacks realize just how valuable they are. And, you know, you could definitely make the argument that quarterbacks are even more valuable than the biggest NBA stars. And they're starting to, for lack of a better term, take the power back because, you know, in a Deshaun Watson case, or, you know, there's been rumors about Aaron Rodgers, like, they have all the power. And while contracts bring a little bit of leverage to these other teams, you know, the players have the ultimate final card, which is, well, I just won't play. And when you're a quarterback, your team just simply can't afford to let that happen. So now we're seeing it happen with Russell Wilson. And I think everyone kind of agrees that he's using his leverage to try and light a fire under the Seahawks to improve the situation there. But in a world where you are, you know, where we're thinking that maybe Russell Wilson says, I'm sick and tired of getting smashed behind this terrible O-line that you guys don't invest in. The question is, how much would this shake up the quarterback market?
It would shake it up entirely. I mean, this would be absolutely crazy. And who would end up being more valuable? The question is Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson. And not only would this impact the quarterback market this year, but this would impact the quarterback market for years to come, with multiple quarterbacks just deciding they want out and then they're out if somehow Russell Wilson was moved this offseason, which I don't expect. But just the fact that he's coming out and saying these things extremely publicly. I mean, I thought when he was on the Dan Patrick show yesterday, guys, he was going to downplay some things when Dan asked questions and say, well, I don't really know, if I should be more involved. No, straight up. Yeah, I should be more involved in the decision-making process.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned the NBA in the age of empowerment. I mean, I think we're kind of at stage one here with Russell Wilson, where he wants to see if they're going to do the things necessary. I would say he's kind of where like Giannis in Milwaukee was several months ago when they were talking about a long-term deal, but finding out, okay, are they going to do the things that I think they should do to keep me around, to show that they're all in? Of course, the Bucks move was to trade for Jrue Holiday, and next thing you know, Giannis is signing a long-term extension, and they have their core, and they're still in the title mix. And I think that's sort of where Russell Wilson sounded like to me he was right now, that he's not out the door. Like Deshaun Watson believes he's out the door. Bye. Russell, I think, wants to give the Seahawks a chance to kind of figure this out, but he's going to drop some hints. I mean, that's why I kind of look at this, and I think we're maybe at an earlier stage in the dance, even though it's just in light of Deshaun Watson. It looks interesting to kind of talk about this. I think we're at an earlier stage where he's putting down and saying, okay, I'd like to be at least involved with this. I'd like you to ask me, hey, what do you think we need to get this thing over the top? And the other interesting thing there with Seattle, guys, is in recent years, they've given Russell better targets. They gave him DK Metcalf in particular in the draft. So they've taken one step. I mean, they used to be the Seahawks didn't do much with the receiver, didn't do much with the offensive line. At least doing a little more with the receiver now. What he wants to do is do something with the offensive line. I feel like he's kind of trying to nudge them in a direction here and see if they figure it out. And if they figure it out, I think he'll stay.
Well, here's the problem, though. Like Orlando Brown just became available, right? And he wants to play left tackle. A really easy snap your fingers, make Russell happy move would be to trade for Orlando Brown. Problem is, they already traded away all their draft capital to get Jamal Adams. So now what? Because, Mace, we were talking before the show. You said you think it'll take a 1 and a 2 to get Orlando Brown. Well, they don't have that. Yeah. So what does Russ want them to do? Because, maybe they could trade DK Metcalf for Orlando Brown or something, as a piece around him. But Russ wouldn't like that either. So their hands are kind of tied. And again, I don't think anyone here thinks Russell Wilson is actually leaving Seattle. But they don't have the resources to necessarily improve the roster right now.
And they certainly don't have the resources on defense outside of Jamal Adams or maybe Bobby Wagner. Their defense was horrendous last year. I mean, it was on pace to be the worst passing defense ever. I don't know if it actually finished as that, but I know throughout most of the season it was on pace for that. I remember seeing a stat that it was on pace to allow more passing yards than Peyton Manning had in 2013. It was on pace to allow more than 5,500 passing yards, just to show you how bad that defense was. So you're exactly right, Brian. What do they do? How do they help Russ? Is this something where, maybe they come back to Russ and say, well, Russ, we can maybe sign some free agents, but, one guy on our team's making a lot of money right now. If only he could take a pay cut, then we could sign some guys to protect him.
But what good offensive linemen are going to hit free agency?
No, the Connor McGoverns of the world, and no disrespect, but that, in average center.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I have a hard time imagining now how they're going to appease him. Now, again, maybe he's just trying to light the fire under them to get them thinking, okay, when opportunities arise, we need to try. And maybe they can try to execute something for Orlando Brown. I mean, if you have to trade away defensive players to make Russell Wilson happy or lose Russell Wilson, well, your options are easy there. What I will say, though, is if Russell Wilson wants to play for a team that has invested in the offensive line, might I interest him in a team that just signed their all-pro second-team left tackle to a long-term deal, invested a second-round pick in their left guard, invested a third-round pick in their center, have one of the highest-paid right guards in the NFL and one of the highest-paid right tackles in the NFL.
You mean the team that should have had him all along for the last 8 years?
Ouch.
I do mean that too.
Well, guys, he'll probably want weapons too. They got DK Metcalf. Well, he's coming to the Broncos, who have invested a first-round pick in a tight end. They have invested a first-round pick in a wide receiver. They have a Pro Bowl second-round receiver, and they also have another second-round receiver to go along with 2 Pro Bowl running backs. I mean, guys, when we talk about how is this, if you're just looking at weapons and you're just looking at the offensive side of the ball, how is this not such an appealing place for a quarterback?
Or a better question, how is this not a better offense?
Right. Yeah. It's a great question.
Gotta keep your wide receiver one healthy first, but
for sure. And you didn't have the right tackle we just referenced,
right? And you had a tight end playing on one ankle. But yes, that's a valid question, and frankly, that question is why the Broncos have sniffed around Matthew Stafford already this offseason.
Yep, and it's why if it's Russ or if it's Deshaun or if it's anyone, the Broncos have to be feeling like they're one piece on offense away, not from like not being terrible anymore, but from being a top tier offense in the NFL. And it's why, despite the fact that I believe in Drew Lock, and I think there's still people around that place that believe in Drew Lock, it's why the Broncos are looking to upgrade the position, because it is clear, at least to anyone who believes in the players that they have on that side of the ball, that that's basically the one place left you have to really improve. Now, right tackle is kind of a mystery. But as we've talked about time and time again this offseason, it's just not an option for the Broncos to do anything there. They're stuck with Juwan James. And while they could draft someone, they're still stuck with Juwan James, and they'd be paying $13 million or whatever it is for a backup if they didn't want to start him. So the Broncos, when they look at their offense and say, okay, what can we do here? They just have to be doing what we're doing and keep coming back to the quarterback position.
Yeah, and Ryan, you talk about how important that they're one piece away potentially from being a top-tier offense. Well, this isn't a shocker, but guys, just look at the playoff picture last year. When you have a top-tier offense, when you have a top-tier quarterback, and I'm not saying you have to have the third best quarterback in the league to make the playoffs. If there's 14 playoff teams, so if you take the top 14 quarterbacks, you're pretty much guaranteed to get a playoff spot. I mean, I'm looking through these teams. The team in the NFC that jumps out to me that didn't necessarily have top tier quarterback play is the Washington football team. Okay, that's
7-9.
Exactly. I mean, exactly. They kind of snuck in, and then there's two more teams from the NFC where you could argue didn't have top tier quarterback play, and that's the Rams and the Bears. In the AFC, you can't. There's no team that didn't have, top tier and, again, top half of the league quarterback play. And that's all you need. You need one of the top 14 quarterbacks in the league or one of the top 7 in the AFC in order to get there. And boy, you put a quarterback in this situation, that's just going to make that quarterback go from, the 7th best quarterback in the AFC, if that's who you get, to the 5th best quarterback or the 4th best quarterback. And then, guys, by the way, you shouldn't have a trash defense either. You should have a pretty solid defense with Vic Fangio and the amount of money that they've invested on the defense.
Exactly. And that's why, again, the Broncos were in on Matthew Stafford. I'm sure they're one of the teams who have called the Texans about Deshaun Watson and been hung up on and will continue to keep calling them until the Texans eventually bite the bullet and trade him, like I think they're going to have to. I just had a thought. And while your thought was happening, I already squashed my own thought, but I just want to let you in on what I did think.
Can you unsquash a thought?
No, it's
like, can you unsquash a bug?
It's dead. It's dead. It's little legs are just squirming.
Oh God! Well, let's get the thought out before the legs stop squirming.
I thought, what if there's one team that the Texans would be down to trade Deshaun Watson to? It would be to the Seahawks for Russell Wilson. But then I realized Deshaun Watson has a no-trade clause and Russell Wilson, more importantly, has a no-trade clause. There's no way he's going from Seattle to Houston.
That'd be a fantastic trade, though, for the Texans, right? I mean, even if it's just a straight 1-for-1 swap, they'd feel thrilled about that. But there's no chance that Russ would. I can't imagine that Russ would say, "Yeah, I want to go there." A very functioning organization that will let me have say in a lot of things. That's pretty much the opposite of what's going on in Houston. It's even this morning with their president of football stepping away.
President of the whole organization, oversees football, business, all of that. Jamie Roots had actually been with the Texans for 20 years. So
what would happen to the Broncos if this happened? So let's just have that example. That's Joe Ellis stepping down today. Obviously,
Yes.
there's an owner in place in this place, but so it would be worse for the Broncos. But so then what happens? John Elway is in charge of everything at that point.
Probably, if that happened with the Broncos, probably you'd have Mac Freeman and John Elway both on the same level. Elway football operations, Mac Freeman business operations, but who would be above that? That's
right.
That's the question. Who would be the figurehead? And maybe if that not that we're saying it's going to happen, but if that happened, then maybe Joe Ellis sticks around in kind of a figurehead John Elway type role to break ties.
Well, and what's interesting there is it's a new GM in Houston. It's a new head coach in Houston. And so what you have is you have this Jack Easterby guy who's taking that role that you're talking about, the Mac Freeman. He's the one that's stepping in and kind of looking over everything. And according to everything we've heard, Easterby isn't necessarily leading them in the right direction.
So I was going to say, so imagine that scenario I just played out. But instead of John Elway being the most beloved figure in team history, it's the most hated figure in team history who is now running the whole show.
Have you guys heard Jack Easterby speak? There's some of his speeches floating around YouTube. I mean,
no, is it good that I haven't heard of him?
It's like slimy salesman energy.
Yeah, that seems like what they're doing out there.
I wouldn't trust him any further than I could throw him, as Ed Rooney said in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, boy. I mean, we talked about this before the show. Guys, this is Josh McDaniels in Denver just having more power. Just a guy that has way more power than even Josh did. And we know the damage that Josh did to the Broncos pretty quickly.
And having zero qualifications. At least Josh McDaniels was a football guy. At least he called plays. What does Easterby have to run an organization? What on his resume says, this is the person I want in charge? I mean, he's obviously got Cal McNair under some kind of hypnotic spell right now. There is no rational explanation for why an NFL organization that, even though they don't have any championships, it was a pretty smooth functioning organization for a long time while the late Bob McNair was in charge. It was considered internally in the NFL actually one of the better organizations. They gave you the resources. The owner had money. It was well supported by its fan base. It is just mind-boggling how things have devolved since Bob McNair died, and now since Jack Easterby has been in that building. An outstanding organization has become a laughingstock in basically about 18 months.
Okay, so let's circle back to the topic at hand here. If Russell Wilson were to be traded, we've already talked about Deshaun Watson, and to me, this is the low end of the spectrum, but it's what's come out of Houston, which is 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and 2 defensive starters. What does the package look like for Russell Wilson?
Is it the exact same? Because they are pretty much the exact same player, except 2 things. Deshaun Watson is younger, so he has that going for him. But Russell Wilson is clutch and has the wins and has the playoff experience and playoff success and the Super Bowl on his side. So do those things kind of balance themselves out? Because when you look at the numbers, guys, and obviously the play speaks for itself for both of them, these guys are both 4,000-yard passers, 30 touchdowns, 9 or 10 interceptions, over 100 passer rating, over 65% completion. They're pretty much the exact same in terms of stats.
Yeah, I mean, the age is basically the thing. Wilson's 32 now, and the other thing with Wilson is, and part of his complaint, he's taking too many hits. I mean, he's been sacked 394 times in his career to date, and that's the one thing that concerns me. Even though as a scrambler, kind of like Deshaun Watson, when Russ does take off, he's not a run to contact guy. He's not a Cam Newton. He is a get to the sideline and get out. And so if you can stop the sacks from accumulating on him, Russell Wilson could be playing for you for another 8 to 10 years. He could be playing into his 40s. But it's incumbent upon stopping that right now. Otherwise, you may get a guy who in 4 or 5 years just has an actual wear and tear and wears down. And so Wilson's more accomplished, like you said, Zach. but Watson's younger. That said, if you put the line in front of Russell Wilson, I think he ends up playing another 10 years. So you'd pay a big price.
I don't think the price can be the same just because 7 years is a lot. Deshaun Watson being 7 years younger than Russ and, like you said, already being generally the same type of player without the top-tier success. But the top-tier success, as we know, isn't his fault. And if you go look at when Russell Wilson won a championship, it was on the heels of a historically great defense. So I think the compensation would have to be a little bit lower. But like I said, the 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and 2 starters on defense is already comically low to me. So maybe that's what it is. It's somewhere in that ballpark. And the real deal for Deshaun Watson is really like 3 firsts, 3 seconds, and a starter.
So would you do that for Russell Wilson? 2 firsts, including 9 this year, 2 seconds, including 40 this year, and Chubb and Draymond Jones?
Yeah, in a heartbeat.
Yeah. I wouldn't even think about it. Yeah. And you're righting it wrong. You're finally overcoming the mistake that you made when you decided that height was the deal breaker.
Seriously. Someone tweeted at me, they don't want Russell Wilson because he sucks at life. And I just want to know, if he sucks at life, what does that mean about me?
What does that mean about everybody else?
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, you talking about Russ?
Russ, yes.
The guy that just won the Walter Payton Man of the Year?
Yeah, exactly.
I think we're all hosed.
Did you guys see that feature during NFL Honors on him when he was Man of the Year at the end of the show? I mean, it was one step away from making him an actual saint living on Earth.
I will say,
wild.
He really skews hard on the corny index, which can hurt you as a quarterback in my eyes. And yet he's so good at actual quarterback that I don't even care.
Yeah, it's Kirk Cousins, except he is good, and you can just kind of push that to the side.
Exactly.
He's not doing Pizza Ranch commercials.
No,
like Kirk Cousins did.
But he did do that stupid video when he signed that contract in Seattle that haunts me to this day.
Oh, laying in bed.
Yeah. Seattle.
So bad.
It hurts me so much. And then the unlimited thing. Unlimited.
Well, now that he's got some kids, I mean, this he's gonna be a master dad joke maker at home.
Oh yeah, just call him RK.
Yeah, it's gonna. There's gonna be a lot of dads as his kids get older in the Wilson household because he can't hold back. That's the thing is that's who he is though. He's got that. He's a little bit of corniness, but I'd say he's an earnest personality, not Ernest P. Worrell from back in the '80s or Ernest movies, but like Earnest. I mean that's just who he is. Yeah.
I would set aside my hate for his corniness in a heartbeat. If the Broncos
instantly
could get Russell Wilson. All right, I want to finish
love it.
This conversation on this note. In this fantasy world that we are living in, both Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson become available, and both set Denver as their top destination. Who are you trading for?
Oh my! Am I George Payton or am I Zach Stevens?
You're Zach Stevens.
Oh, Zach Stevens. Well, gosh, this makes it tough. I'm going to give the nod to Russell Wilson because I know he can do it. I know he has that clutch, not only the playoff success, guys, but also he has the incredible record going against top tier quarterbacks. And that's just something that I can't overlook. And it's so hard to pass up on those 7 years, especially for a guy who I think Deshaun Watson's like the 6th best quarterback in the league, which is fantastic. But I think Russ is, the third. So I'm taking that, giving up 7 years. And also why I asked if I was George Payton, I would give you the same answer if I'm George Payton, except I'm even a little better. And it's an easier answer for me because George Payton, he's not building this team for 10 to 15 years from now. And that's when you wouldn't have Russell Wilson, but you would have Deshaun Watson. He's building this team for next year and really 2 to 3 years from now and 6 years, which is his contract.
I have to go Wilson as well. And,
Oh my goodness.
and this is the reason why. With kind of the tie-breaking factor for me here is that we've seen what happens with Deshaun Watson when he's surrounded by not very much, and he plays well, but sadly for Deshaun Watson, things were so bad in Houston he couldn't elevate the team. In Seattle, ever since the Legion of Boom started breaking up, we've kind of seen that roster kind of get chipped away, and yet Seattle's never had a losing season on his watch. I think that Russ is simply a guy who elevates everyone around him a little bit more than Deshaun, and that's why I'm taking Russell Wilson.
So Ryan, tell us why we're wrong, because I gotta say I thought I was going to be the only one taking Russell Wilson, and so I'm surprised. If anyone's whoever's watching right now, comment and let us know so we can see if Ryan's on the loan table by himself.
Wait, Zach, I thought I was going to be the one who took Russell Wilson. I thought I was going to be the only one who did it. I mean, I'm the one sitting here with the Russell Wilson Asheville Tourist bobblehead on the shelf.
I don't have that. I can tell you that.
And I've kind of been, and I admit I've been on the Russ train since that magnificent season at Wisconsin back in 2011. So it was an easy call for me, but there's a lot of institutional belief in Russell Wilson that I possess.
I start this by saying this is the most fun debate we've ever had. Both sides of it bring me a lot of joy. And I hope the Broncos are left with such a conundrum. It's got to be Deshaun Watson for me. And it starts with his youth. Being 25 years old. I mean, you're basically like winning the lottery by getting a 25-year-old quarterback who's already top 5 in the league with his entire prime ahead of him. And because of that, you think we get skewed by looking at Tom Brady, who's winning Super Bowls at 43 years old. But a lot of quarterbacks, play till they're 36, 37, 38. So you're talking 5 years with Russell Wilson on the low end, 10 years on the high end, maybe. And to me, that's the beginning of the conversation. Then you look at, who are they as quarterbacks? Obviously, that Russ has won a Super Bowl. But again, you look back and you say, how good did Russell Wilson have to be to win that Super Bowl? We talk about how you can win a Super Bowl with an average quarterback if you have a historically great defense. Well, they had a historically great defense. So I have to knock him a little bit there. But really what it comes down to, and I've been saying this since right before the Kyler Murray draft, is every move you make has to be done with the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes in mind. And if you get a 25-year-old quarterback who's top 5 right now, like you've just entered the space race. Like it's basically a competition between you and the Chiefs as to who can build their roster the best over the next 15 years. And obviously the Chiefs have a big head start, but at least now you're in the race. And having Russell Wilson can give you a short spurt of time where you can compete in there. But to me, I want them to be scared again. I want there to be fear in Kansas City again. And while there might be for a short period of time, if you get Deshaun Watson, you're worrying that they're starting to worry that you could derail their whole future plans.
The great thing about this is there's no wrong answer. And guys, last week we talked about the nightmare scenario that could happen if Deshaun Watson goes to the Raiders. What if it's Russell Wilson to the Raiders and Deshaun Watson to the Broncos? Could you imagine? I mean, we also talked about how there's never been 4 great quarterbacks in the division, but could you imagine that? I guess that would mean that Justin Herbert would have to turn out to be a bust, right?
It would, yeah.
Literally the greatest division of quarterbacks in the history of football, and maybe the greatest division of great players in any sport that we will have ever seen.
Yeah, honestly, at that point, the 4 owners in the AFC West, or three owners, and Joe Ellis, should just split off and make their own league.
And then you get primetime every week.
Exactly.
Or you say, now's a good chance to maybe rethink the scheduling here. And instead of these teams playing each other twice, Now with 17 games, maybe we're going to say we're going to play every team in our conference once, plus 2 interconference games, and that's the schedule. There it is. That
be great. Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with either answer here. And the one last thing I want to add about Deshaun Watson is he could still be getting better and should still be getting better probably. And he's already statistically the best quarterback in the NFL last year. So because of that, the ceiling it's endless. There's no, we don't even know how much better he could get, especially when you surround him with those weapons. You give him a good offensive line. You put him into a competent organization. That's why I have to go that way. But I'm the guy who has a rule, never bet against Russell Wilson. So, I'm fully on board with that as well.
Well, and another thing about both of these guys, both great leaders and also both great people. Russell Wilson just won the Walter Payton Man of the Year, and we know that Deshaun Watson is a fantastic person as well.
Yeah, he'll win the man. He'll be the Man of the Year in the next 3 or 4 years because, they love having elite players win that. And so he's kind of, I wouldn't say he's next in line, but he's not long down the list before he's wearing that patch on his jersey. So yeah, I mean, if you're choosing between these two, what's a food analogy? I mean, is this like choosing between lobster and filet mignon or something like that? I mean, you literally cannot go wrong with either.
For me, it's like choosing between bubblegum ice cream or cotton candy ice cream. You're winning either way, baby.
What's wrong with you?
That's my filet and lobster right there.
Good God. I want to look really quick before I say it, but I'm pretty sure to this point, okay, they don't even, wait, there we go. You can't get in on the odds for Russell Wilson's next team. Let's see. Nope. Oh, nope, not yet. So, but you can look at the odds for Russell Wilson's or for Deshaun Watson's next team at DraftKings Sportsbook. And right now, Broncos moving down the pack a little bit. They've fallen behind. Now they are behind the Washington football team, the 49ers, the Dolphins, the Raiders, the Jets, the Panthers, and the Texans are back to the favorites. They had moved all the way to plus 700 at one point. Now they're back up to plus 250.
Wow.
So a lot of movement there because they started at minus 110, dropped all the way to plus 700, now back to plus 250. Unfortunately, the Broncos are slipping, but as you could see, things can change with just one report.
So people are really buying the Texans digging their heels in. I mean, I think that's something they kind of have to do, especially right now. There's no rush for them to trade him in February 10th right now, but I don't buy it. Like I buy that they don't want to trade him, but I also buy that there's nothing they're going to do to change Watson's mind.
Do either of you know off the top of your head who their backup quarterback is?
In Houston?
Nope.
Yeah.
AJ McCarron.
Okay. Well, that's not the worst one in the world to say, like, we'll stand pat and just let AJ McCarron start if we have to. But
he could be a 4-week bridge.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a good situation either way. And speaking of DraftKings Sportsbook, before we get out of here today, let's do our DraftKings Sportsbook pick of the week. I will lead off, my friends, and I'm going to a man that I trust with my entire life. It's Nikola Jokic. He's on a tear right now. He's scoring the ball at will, and they're taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers tonight. So I'm taking Jokic over 25.5. To keep my streak going. I think I'm continuing my streak on the picks of the week.
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, Jokic is absolutely on fire. While the Nuggets aren't, he still is. Guys, I'm going to football, sticking with football. This is one that I absolutely love on DraftKings Sportsbook right now. I'm going, obviously, future bet in the NFL. Conference winner, the NFC. Mace, your Bucks are going to be back in the Super Bowl for a second straight year at plus 450. I love that right now. Throw $10 on it, throw half a unit on it, whatever it is. The Bucs are going to be back there. And guys, when you look at this, there's really only, in my eyes right now, one competition against the Bucs right now, and that's the Green Bay Packers. They're also plus 450. But so if you want, you can take both of those teams. Of course, I'm never going to take the Packers to make the Super Bowl, so I'm not doing that. But if you look in the NFC, I mean, guys, the team with the fourth best odds is the San Francisco 49ers. They may, if they get Deshaun, okay, yeah, a lot changes there, obviously. The LA Rams have the third best odds. I mean, come on. This is so easy to me. Take Tom Brady.
Yeah, there's some interesting odds here. Seattle right now has worse odds than the 49ers to win the NFC. Seattle is 11-1 right now. San Francisco is 13-2. So it's kind of fascinating how that is that's breaking down. There are some interesting odds there, especially when we talk about teams that could be in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. Like you got Washington sitting down there at 25-1, but if they got Deshaun Watson, certainly they would perk up. So, but that's not my pick.
If you're going to bet on Deshaun Watson's next team, you might as well just bet on that team to, win their division or something like that. Unless
you should.
The Broncos might be the only team who could get him and not become division favorites.
Right. Anyone in the AFC West.
Yeah. While we're talking about DraftKings Sportsbook, and I'll let you give your pick here in a second, Mace. But I have to tell you guys, they did a promotion. It's called Hammer the Over. And the way it worked was every 1,000 people that bet on the over to hit in Nuggets Lakers on Valentine's Day set the total down 1 point. It started at 200. We've reached 0. So if a point is scored in the game, you win your bet. It's free money. You can bet up to $25. So anyone and everyone should want $25 free dollars. I guarantee. That's my pick of the week. 1 point to be scored in Lakers Nuggets on Valentine's Day, plus 100.
I'm not betting against that. And the good thing is I don't have to bet against it. I can bet with it. And the awesome thing, Ryan, is if this gains interest, they're going to keep doing it. I would say it gained a lot of interest.
Yeah, shout out to the people who bet on it when it was all the way up at 200. They were the real believers.
Yeah.
All right, Mace, what do you got for us?
All right. Well, Deshaun Watson and his destination, that isn't the only thing you can bet on in regards to that. You can bet on Sam Darnold, the first team for which he plays one snap this season. And I'm going to take the Colts at 4-1 here.
Wow.
On being the place that Sam Darnold ends up. One thing, there certainly appears to be a lot of smoke regarding the Jets going quarterback. We're seeing mock draft after mock draft that has the Jets taking Zach Wilson, number 2 overall. We're seeing trade rumors regarding Sam Darnold. It seems like they've made their decision regarding Darnold here, coming in after Robert Saleh took the job. And I expect the Bears are going to win the Carson Wentz sweepstakes, and that would lead the Colts to go for the next guy on the list. Darnold would make a lot of sense working with Frank Reich. Certainly, I'm sure Reich would believe that he can get more out of him. Maybe the Colts add a hedge at some point, but Sam Darnold in Indianapolis going to a good organization that's got an awful lot of talent on that roster, top to bottom. That makes a lot of sense for him to rebuild his career. 4-1 odds, I'll take that.
Yeah, if Carson Wentz falls to the Bears, then I really like those odds, Mace. But you probably got to get in on those odds before Carson Wentz goes to the Bears.
Well, the thing is, among teams other than the Jets, they're the favorite. The Jets are 6-4 right now. The Colts 4-1, Panthers 5-1, Texans 5-1. The Broncos, gentlemen, are 10-1 odds to land Sam Darnold.
Good. Keep those odds low.
Yeah,
but they are the 5th team.
Yeah, but I just can't see George Payton paying the equivalent of a late first-round pick to bring in Sam Darnold. I can't see that happening.
No, especially because he wouldn't even be guaranteed the job.
Yeah,
it's a lot to pay for a potential cup.
Yeah, you don't give a first-round pick for a competition quarterback.
Right. No. I actually, man, Carson to the Bears is at minus 150 right now. That seems very high. The Eagles at plus 700.
Wow. So what are the Eagles doing? Are they, I know that the trade over the weekend was potentially that they were going to get Nick Foles, and then you could have a quarterback competition with Nick Foles and Jalen Hurts. But let's say do they have a ton of faith in Jalen Hurts? Are they going quarterback round 1? I mean, I can't imagine they do that.
I can imagine that. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did. Again, if they think like we think, then they would say, when are we ever going to be this high again? Hopefully never.
Right.
And say, okay, we have the 6th pick, I believe.
I forgot they were so high.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's go get our guy of the future. Maybe it's Trey Lance. They go back to the North Dakota State well. Or maybe they don't like the North Dakota State well anymore. They think it's been poisoned. And so they go, Justin Fields or whatever. It'll be interesting to see what they do.
Well, one thing kind of looming over this, on Todd McShay's mock draft, he put out a scenario where quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, wow.
And you have trades involved, and then Mac Jones goes off the board, I believe, at 12.
Wow, the disrespect.
Yeah, but that might be the price of admission, even though I don't think these other than Trevor Lawrence, I don't think these quarterbacks are worth going 2, 3, 4 in the draft, but that's just the climate in which we exist right now. If you want that guy, you've got to pay the price and pay the price in draft capital to trade up. But like you guys said, it's a lot easier to do it when you're picking 6th, or if you're the Broncos picking 9th, then you're hoping to be picking in the back half of the first round after that.
All right, great conversation, boys. That's going to wrap it up for us on the live side of things. If you watch on YouTube, we'd love if you hit us with a like, a subscribe. You can even sign up for alerts there, all just like that. But we're going to move on to the podcast side of things. You can listen anywhere you get podcasts. Plenty of more Broncos talk there. So we will talk to you later.